Speaking about which, I mean, if you look at the last elections, governorship elections that have held, you know, at that time too, there was a lot of drumbeat about what thugs were going to do or not do. But at the end of the day, compared to what it used to be before, I'm not sure there was any death.
I will give credit to the government in power at this point. Because, you see, in every rumor, there's always an iota, an atom of truth. Okay, if there were rumors before the election, like, let's say, Ekiti and Osun State and all that, and what Mr. President did was to ensure that there were lots of security operatives on the ground. It stopped the issues of, you know, snatching of ballot boxes and, you know, doing certain things that are actually not supposed to be done because of the presence of security people on the ground.
The action or inaction of security agencies for these elections will be so much under the spotlight.
That is true.
So they will be careful, or they have to be.
You're very
because
correct.
Other people have said, look, they must be seen to be neutral. They must conduct themselves, put up their best behavior in the manner of speaking.
That's the truth, but I will not say that they were not neutral when they did Ekiti and Osun State. Okay, I won't say that. Because the truth is, if they were not to be neutral, okay, you won't have Ekiti go for the PDP and then Osun remain with the APC. But you see, all the security agents did was to make sure that their presence were there, and the boys who could scare, you know, politicians, like I said, they go overboard. They have their own touts. They have their own people who go around intimidating people and all that. So right now, as I speak to you, we are speaking with INEC, okay, to try and see, to try and see how we can, you know, repeat or correct some anomalies on the issue of voters' card and registration. That was what I was trying to say before the question came in. Okay, that we don't change anything with violence. We don't change anything with a barrel of the gun or knife or fighting or intimidation and all that. Okay, what you need to make a change is your voter's card.
Tell us about what kind of communication held. What was the response about voter's card? Because lots of people are talking about the voter's card.
I actually had I had a rally with hundreds of thousands of people and different other pressure groups that came under that umbrella. I led the rally myself, okay, in order to ensure that INEC gets to know from Abuja, so to say, that certain people were disenfranchised from exercising their rights. I didn't only do that. I just had a program at the Trade Fair mini stadium where we had so many people attended. And what I spoke on was the way INEC actually handled the permanent voters card and the registration, okay? Like, for instance, I come from a place where the local government headquarters is Uria, the local government headquarters, right? And you say to someone, okay, you go to the local government headquarters and pick up your voter's card. You and I know that on the day of voting, there will be restrictions of movement. And now, as I speak to you, some of those people had to take cab or bike or keke napep, as we call it, to go and collect their voter's card. On the day of election, this is what will happen. These people will not be able to vote in the nearest polling station or whatever to them.
Why?
Because there will be no movement. There will be restrictions of movement. Okadas will not move that day. Bikes will not be there.
But is that not why INEC said, look, INEC did not compel anybody to register in a particular place. They tell you, go register where it's closest to you where you can vote.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, that these people did not allow these polling booths to be where they are supposed to be. For instance, where I did my own, where I got my own card from was very close to me, very close to where I stay. And there are lots of people also who stay there, okay? But they didn't get their voter's card from there. It was moved from that place to Oriade Primary School, close to the local government headquarters, where, of course, the local government staffs and all that are the ones that call the shots at that. And as I'm saying, I want you to understand, I am a pastor, a bishop of not just 2 or 3 people, okay? By the time you ask the people, how many of you have been able to collect your voter's card? I was shocked to my bone marrow. Why? Because we want people to go out and vote for their preferred candidate.
Okay,
so the best we could do is
clarify this for us. I mean,
yes,
if picking up your voter's card
yes,
at a designated local government,
right,
how does that change where, or how does that affect where you will vote?
Yes, this is the way to affect where you will vote, because on that day you will not have the opportunity to move from where you are to where you picked up your voter's card.
Well, I think that what INEC was saying is, I do know that, in many polling booths, they couldn't pick up the voter's card for the 3 days that were earmarked for it. And that if you're not able
they
to...
even extended
Yeah,
the
and
days.
that if you're not able to pick it up on those days designated, then you have to go to the local government to pick it up. But it doesn't mean that you can vote at the polling unit where you registered. I think the question I get from what you're raising is that it would seem that some of the polling units have been moved. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, not the polling booths were moved, but the people were not allowed to do it where they were supposed to do it. Rather, they moved them to the headquarters. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. And that's why all Nigerians, or some Nigerians, if you listen to most of these aspirants and all that, who knows that very much that their chances of winning the election lies in voters' card. They've been clamoring for this.
Did you raise this with INEC when you...
Yes, I did. And,
what did they say?
Let me be frank with you. I invited some politicians to the rally at the trade fair and all that. And I spoke on this. And when a particular candidate came up to speak, he now asked the question, how many of you have your voter's card? Honestly speaking, I almost became emotional, because I do know that you don't win election by shouting. You don't win election by the crowd you see in the campaign. Before the Malawi election came up, I was the guest of the president, Dr. Joyce Banda, and I got there on the day activities of campaign had to stop, and we didn't have enough time to talk before he had to run to conclude our campaign activities and all that. But there was something she said and her PAs and SAs that I had time to speak with, because he had to be at the rally or the campaign venue. Well, the crowd are always there with me and all this and all that, okay? But they didn't ensure if this crowd actually have these cards to be able to vote for her and all that. And the result of what happened in Malawi is what all of us know. As an incumbent,
yeah, but before we go, I'll pose this question from Midday. It's a tweet here, and he wants us, before you leave, to kindly comment on the political situation of this country. And he went on to say, maybe you will differ from what Reverend Mbaka has said.
Okay. All right. Actually, you see, like I said, what Reverend-Father Mbaka has said, as a colleague in the ministry, I owe it to him as his own opinion. Your opinion is not binding on anybody, so to say. That was why his superiors actually said exactly what I am saying. And according to their rules and tenets, okay, it's like they are going to sanction him for making so.
No, we're not talking about sanction. The answer to this question, they want you to tell us the political situation in the country. What's your opinion about it?
My opinion about this is that people should be allowed to go and vote for their preferred candidate and not be coerced.
That's an advice, not political situation. They want you to tell them political situation in the country.
Yes, the political situation in the country as it is right now, it's not calm. That is the truth. Okay? Both from the smaller parties to the giant two parties that we have, I mean the opposition and the ruling party right now, is not very calm. And that is the reason why answering her question, why they have to be going from one church to the other, and maybe very soon they will start going from one mosque to the other. So we need to do a lot of praying and a lot of acting to make sure that the political situation in the country gives people that ability to have this consciousness of not being afraid of what is going to happen now or during the election or after the election.
Just to clarify one thing before we wrap up, you said that if a prophet says something and it doesn't come true, then there's question mark.
True.
But we also know in scriptures that if God sends you somewhere as a prophet, if the people repent, God changes.
Right.
So?
You're right.
It doesn't make the prophet a liar.
No, it doesn't. Like the case of Hezekiah, so to say, okay? God sent Isaiah to him and said, you're going to die, put your house in order and all that. Okay, and immediately Hezekiah decided to begin to pray, and God answered his prayer. But God went back to Isaiah and said to him, return back to Hezekiah and tell him that he's not going to die anymore because he has prayed. And this is the sign. I want you to remember that. This is the sign that he's not really going to die.
So Chamberlain, sorry, can we then say, first when he spoke, then God told him, go back.
Okay.
That's not it. You have just endorsed what I haven't said.
Exactly, but what sign did he give? That's the issue. That's the point.
He gave the sign of even a dove that couldn't fly. You watched it. I did too. If he's saying that a dove couldn't fly, and that's the healthiest of them all, just the same way we saw fat cows or thin cows swallowing up, fat cows.
Right.
The dream, Joseph.
Right.
I love the scriptures. It's so clear.
So
he's bringing another one, telling us about a dove that couldn't fly.
Okay. Well, when he said that, I still maintain to you that he did this. There are certain things that we cannot talk about. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? If not, I would have been able to say, okay, listen, this is exactly what happened. This is exactly what happened. But I will not sit here and then talk about my colleague on issues that are supposed to be secretive.
So
and all
isn't
that,
it better to leave him and his God if he says God spoke to him?
Exactly. That's exactly what...
rather than say, no, God didn't speak to him or comments like that.
No. When we say God didn't speak to him, it's not as a direct statement to him. All everybody, every right-thinking person is actually saying is that this is his opinion, that God said to him, this will happen, that will happen. But nobody is saying God did not speak to him or God spoke to him and all that.
Okay, Bishop Samson Benjamin, thank you very much indeed for coming on this morning.
And thank you for having me.
We'll be back after this break. We've got other matters coming up here today. Please join us again.